மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
Welcome back, and welcome to the tactics part of the course. We're going to begin our journey going through 50 different tactics in London, and hopefully by now you've had a chance to solve most, if not all of them. There's a good number of very difficult problems, so if you had trouble along the way, no worries. That's why I'm here to go over them and explain not only the positions in more depth, but kind of go through how the positions occurred and what ideas can be applied to typical London openings and London middle games. So starting with the first one, this is actually one of my favorite tactics out of the series of problems that I prepared. And it comes kind of unexpectedly in the opening. And I do want to go and show the first few moves of the game. It was d4, d5, bishop f4, knight f6. And it started as a relatively standard London structure after e3. And, okay, white doing kind of the normal setup, knight d2. And as we've seen from some of the introductory games, black is usually inclined to play a move like e6 here, even sometimes queen b6. But in this case, black chose this move g6. Now, I do want to note, the player playing white in this game is actually a good friend of mine, Irene Sukandar, international master from Indonesia. And playing black in this game, relatively strong master, M. Jacobson, I believe from Denmark. They played at a pretty strong tournament in Denmark. And in this position, Irene was out of her opening preparation. G6 is a pretty rare move here. But the idea is pretty simple, just to play bishop g7 and castle. And Irene started thinking in this position, and amazingly enough, she actually calculated until kind of the tactical moment before making her next move. And the move she, of course, calculated was d takes c5. And then it looks very natural for black to respond with e5. And after bishop g5, black would then win back the pawn. And that actually brings us to the tactical position. But I didn't want to make a note that Irene saw this position ahead of time and went for this line because she was aware of the tactical opportunity. So let's get to that position. After take, e5, bishop g5, bishop takes e5. Looks like black is doing very well. I mean, if we just glance at the position, black has better center, better development. White has moved the bishop twice on g5, from f4 to g5, and only other piece developed for white is a knight on d2. So just based on general opening principles, seems like black should be the one on top in this position. Unfortunately for black, there are some issues with the position though. And a big theme in this exercise is being able to identify the tactical targets. Because black has committed to this perhaps weakening move g6, the knight is less defended on f6. And this pin is very important in creating the tactical scenario, which we'll see. On top of that, bishop on c5 not defended. And the pawn on d5, even though it looks defended, it's still a potential target in the center. And not to mention, okay, the queen on d8, also the rook on h8. All of these are kind of tools that white's going to use in the position to win material. So the material winning move for whites is a bit unexpected here. Very powerful, knight to e4. And this is a type of move I think it's hard to identify right off the bat. Very easy to overlook because e4, of course, is attacked by the black pawn. But if we look a bit deeper, after d take e4, white is very happy to take on d8. Of course, if king d8, white is winning a lot of material, forking the king and the rook. And meanwhile, if knight take d8, white is very happy to take on f6. And let's say black castles, white is winning at least a pawn in this line. So going back, knight e4 is actually guaranteed to win material. It hits the knight on f6, hits the bishop on c5. There's not too many other options for black in this position. The only other logical option is to play bishop e7. But now we can see white wins the pawn. Now I've shown this position to students, and more than half of the students will suggest a suboptimal variation for white in this position. So I do want to clarify that it is necessary for white to win the pawn in the most accurate way possible. And I will say that a lot of students have gone wrong after they simply take on f6 twice, and then they take on d5. And although this does win a pawn, it gives black some compensation. Black could play a move like bishop to e6, and yeah, white slept a pawn, but black has actually very, very good development. The rook is coming to d8, black is ready to castle, and white has none of the king side developed. So this is actually not the line white would like to go for. So going back to this position, after bishop e7, there's a stronger continuation for white. And if you don't see it, or you haven't looked at this yet, feel free to pause the video, but white to move and win the pawn in the best way possible. So white's going to be a bit more creative here, and the best move is actually to take with the bishop first on f6. Forcing bishop take f6, and now there's a very nice move for white, queen take d5. And the difference between this and the other line is the fact that white is now pretty much forcing a queen trade. The beauty lies within this line. After queen take d5, white can then take the bishop, forking the queen and the king. And after a move, I don't know, like king f8, knight take d5, white's just up a pawn. Black has limited compensation because queens are now traded. So white should have no problem developing and just having great winning chances in the middle game. So just to wrap this up, I will show what happened in Irene's game just briefly, because her opponent did capture the knight on e4. Irene took, and they actually went into this line where black castles in this position. Irene went up a pawn, and viewers are welcome to take a look at the rest of the game, but white was always the one playing for the win, and I don't think there were too many technical problems for white. So hope you guys enjoyed that. A lot of the problems in this course will feature somewhat hard to see moves like knight e4, where you have to perhaps think out of the box and spot moves that maybe you don't typically look for. But that's often how chess games are won. If you can find something that your opponent overlooks, it can be very, very dangerous. So hope that that provides some inspiration, and I will see you guys in the next lesson.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.